Excellent. I'll get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. Today is the Lightbulb's very first webinar, and we have chosen a topic that is of general importance and of relevance to practically everybody in the world of marketing, sales, and specifically research. This is in the space of maximizing ROIs, and we have two very eminent speakers, along with myself, to help share their experiences and knowledge on how they have optimized and used insights to improve the ROIs for their various marketing campaigns. Over the span of the next 30 minutes, I think you will hear from people with a lot of hands-on experience in and having been part of very large organizations in terms of what they have done and the insights that they have seen across marketing campaigns of different types. These could be above the line campaigns, below the line campaigns, product launches. These could be new communication campaigns. So the entire gamut of various types of marketing campaigns with different objectives will be covered here today. We would request everybody who's on call to feel free to drop questions in the chat as and when the conversation is going on. We would not like to disturb the speakers while they're speaking. So just drop the questions in the chat, and after the speaker sessions are over, we'll pick up each of these questions. And if there is anything that you feel as a comment or something that can contribute to the discussion, again, feel free to use the chat as a way to interact with the group. Let me quickly jump through and introduce our wonderful speakers today. First off, let me quickly speak about Sandeep Ranade. Sandeep is a veteran of the market research industry. He has joined and left more companies than I can count. You can look at every large market research agency in India, whether it's Nielsen, whether it's Kantar, whether it's Ipsos, whether it's in the past, whether it's IMRB, whether it's Maxis. He has played very senior and important and strategic roles in all of them. Yet he's one of the humblest and the nicest people it has ever been my pleasure to meet. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for agreeing to join us today.
Thank you, Ritu.
Thank you so much. And we have David, who's been with us since our earliest days at Lightbulb. He is a favorite of everyone here at Lightbulb. He's the CEO and founder of the Merrill Research Group, which is based out of the US and has handled research for practically every large electronics brand. I think he's forgotten more than a lot of us here absolutely know. And he brings a very unique, straightforward, interesting take on all things marketing and research. And I absolutely know you will love listening to him because that's one of my favorite things to do. Thank you so much, David. We know it's crazy late in the US, and we're so happy that you could take the time to be with us today.
Thank you very much. And I swear I'm not wearing my jammies. So it's late here, but I'm ready to go. I'm the complete opposite of Sandeep. He's been at many companies. I've been at one company. So it should be interesting.
No, this will absolutely prove to be interesting. A brief, small introduction about myself. My name is Ritu Srivastava, part of the co-founding team at TheLightbulb.ai. We are a second-time entrepreneurial team that built and sold one business in the past to US-based investors. We run a full-stack emotion AI company with a specific product in the area of consumer insights called Insights Pro. We've been lucky enough, even though we are young, to have worked with some of the leading market research agencies here in India, from Nielsen, Nielsen IQ, Kantar, Quantum, and are now looking to onboard some of the other larger agencies with us. So looking forward to a great session. I will hand over now to Sandeep, who is the first speaker. Sandeep, over to you. Feel free to share your screen if you would like to.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share my screen, and being Zoom, whereas our default is Teams, I'm trying to share sound because I'm going to play one video, and I hope it plays. Otherwise, let me know. Is my screen visible now? Okay. So guys, thank you for this opportunity first, and good morning to everyone. As Ritu mentioned, we are going to talk about maximizing ROI, and I am being a little safe and trying to call it optimizing marketing campaigns. I will try and set the tone for the webinar today with some basics, and then let David and Ritu take it on more deeper into the topic. I will start from a quote, and we all know this, by a big neurophysicist called Antonio Damasio, where he says, "We are not thinking machines who feel, but we are feeling machines that think." Right? The whole idea, and we all know, is about every decision has a mix of both emotions and rational, right? And that reminds me of this movie. I don't know, most of you would have seen or not seen this movie. This is a 2015 movie, and you should actually see it if you have not seen it after this webinar, Inside Out, which very beautifully portrays what we are talking about today, and also how it can be used by marketeers in their campaigns way forward. And it brings to the other one, which again goes back to the way brain works, called system 1 and system 2, where most decisions like driving a vehicle, right, very quick decisions is taken by system 1, whereas playing chess or playing a violin becomes a system 2, kind of a very complex thought through decision. Now, why am I talking about all this in a maximizing ROI seminar would be the question that you are asking. The question I am asking is, as things are very dynamic and changing, are we measuring these emotions or system 1 responses in the research that we do, or the consumer insights that the marketing teams seek, whether it is customer experience, whether it is advertising content, or whether it is packaging testing? I'm calling a few things out here, but let's talk about pre-testing. I'll play an ad, and then I'll tell you why I'm playing the ad and why am I bringing it here today. Most of you would have seen this ad. David, I don't know whether you would have seen it, but your response to this would be very important later. Let me play it, and I hope even if you don't get the sound, I think it's only music, there are no dialogues. Yeah, so it was the idea of, it's a 2007 ad. I mean, I know most of you would have known about this ad. uh, it's not just about awards, winning awards, but it actually made an impact on the product sales and the brand, right? And somewhere I read it was being rated as one of the top 20 ads of the decade. Now the question, and why I played this ad, is to asking if the system 1 measurement, which was facial emotion, facial expressions measurement, was available in 2007, and had this ad been tested using facial expressions versus just the traditional research where you play this ad for the first time to your consumers and ask them, did you like the ad, did you understand the ad, what message is giving, versus getting the facial expressions or emotions as the ad progresses, what would have been the difference, and how would research would have come back and said whether this ad would work or not work? And that's the point I wanted to bring. And I'm showing one more example, not showing the ad, but see the divergent response on smiles between the two genders. Very divergent for the same ad. And that's the beauty, and most of you might be doing it already. But if we bring in the system 1 measurement along with the traditional way of testing an ad or pre-testing an ad, it gives you a lot of inputs. Now, why are we again talking this in a maximizing ROI seminar? Well, I will first tell you a story, if even if it takes 2 minutes, and then get into the details that are there on the slide and later. I was working in a company as both market research and media head, and the year is important. Way back in 2008, it was an FMCG company, MNC in India, and the financial year for them was May to April, not a Jan December, not a April March, right? And we had a good enough media budget for 3 or 4 brands that the company had. But on April 24th, the MD of the company walks over to me, and or 26th, actually April 26th, where April 30th is the year end, and tells me, Sandeep, I have got 4 crores of rupees. We have to spend it in the next 4 days, and I can't let the money go anywhere. And we have anyway done our media for the year. Now, how do you spend? And I'm talking 2008. There was no digital social media as great at that time, right? But my savior was the first year of IPL. We just put the entire 4 crores on IPL semi-final, finals, whatever the cost per spot Setmax was selling at that time. And we were the first FMCG brand on IPL. Not even Unilever was on IPL that year. And it made impact on our brands, whether it is impact on the sales teams emotion by being on IPL, whether it impacts on consumers by reaching the consumers with the first IPL. Now, the idea is nobody looked at the ROI, right? There was a different kind of ROI that we got from spending those 4 crores in 4 days at that time. But when we today build campaigns, and I've put 2 things here. One part is developing the assets for the campaign, the creatives. The second part is deploying them. And as the things are evolving, we know there's a very thin line between content and connect or touch point nowadays. It has to be purely customized to the media that you are putting the content on, right? That's what I'm saying, there's a thin line. So keeping that in mind, and not hoping anyone lands in that situation that they have to spend 4 crore. Today, there are multiple choices available to the brand teams and the media teams to spend the money. I would be sharing a few pointers to you on optimizing media campaigns or getting a better ROI. Very basic, and then let David and Ritu take on detail. The first, I think we all know about it, but I'm just putting a number to it, is creative quality. And I'm showing data from Advertising Research Foundation, who does a lot of research on media, and also WAP, which says that the creative quality plays a big role in maximizing ROI, right? And of the advertising elements, creative contributes nearly 50% to the sales contribution, right? So a pre-tested creative always is far better than going in without pre-testing it, right? Based on the objective of the campaign, what was being made, and bringing in the system one check into it also. That's number one. The second part is we all do integrated marketing campaigns, multimedia campaigns. And again, this is data from ARF saying if you add more platforms to your campaign, your ROI increases, right? You add one single media versus 2, 3, 4, 5 media. But the question I'm asking here is the campaign A that I'm showing on the screen, will you call it a multimedia campaign? We have seen advertisers come to us with campaigns saying my medium 1 has 95% of my spends, medium 2 is 3% of my spends, medium 3 is 2%. I am doing a multimedia campaign. I'm sorry, that's not a multimedia campaign. If you want to run a multimedia campaign, you should have minimum good 8-10% spend. I'm just putting a number. There could be a scientific way to come at that number in each of the media that you're taking as multimedia. It depends on the entire size of the campaign, etc. But then the multimedia definition needs to be clear, and you will see the impact on ROI coming in, right? So it's not just saying I'm doing a multimedia campaign, it's how you are making it multimedia. Number 3 is we always talk about synergies. I mean, everyone would have talked to you about creative synergies. Having a consistent messaging across the various media will help gain engagement. Research has shown us there is also synergies between the touch points you use. So it's not just about creative synergies. It is also about the way you use the touch points and their synergy. So there is data showing there is synergies between TV and video ads, or there is synergy between search and display. Now, if one uses them wisely, you get more bang for your buck, right? In the same money, you get a better ROI, right? So 3 points, and the fourth point is, what is the role of each media in your campaign based on the objective of your campaign, right? We in earlier time we used to say TV, radio, outdoor. We can now say podcasts as they are growing. We can now say digital OOH as they are growing. What is the role? And it's paid, earned, and owned media. What is the role that each media plays? Is it to just build your awareness or reach in a 30-second spot, for a car to actually put up the display and show all the features for a car ad, in a display ad, or in a print ad, right? How you use each of the media again works along with the synergies that we talked about to amplify the impact of your campaign, right? So these are the four things that I wanted to say: creative quality, right? The second one being, if I go back very quickly, multimedia. But what is the definition of multimedia? Both creative and touch point synergies, and the role each media plays in your campaign. If that's done, for the same money, you get a far better ROI. And talking about the future, we know as things are evolving and becoming more and more complex, more options are available to consumers and for advertisers to uh, put their media monies on. Apart from measuring emotions, if we are able to accumulate a lot of data, which is going to the analytics range, we will be able to get a lot of ideas on our future strategy and decision making. It could be response to stimuli or customer experience, but also instead of just the clicks on social media, if we are able to get the sentiment through system one, it is going to help a lot in terms of the future strategy. That's what I had. Thank you. Questions to come later. Back to you, Ritu.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. That was absolutely fantastic. And the Happy Dent ad is one I distinctly remember. I think also because not only was the concept so unique, but it was such a elegant hat tip to our colonial, back
Yes,
history,
yes.
that it just touched a very deep chord, I think, amongst most people who saw it. And then just like the last smile, because the denominator of the ad is just building up and building up, and in the end there is this, oh, so that's what this ad is all about, which was, I think, it's one of my favorite ads. Thank you so much for refreshing our memory. That was beautiful. I'll hand over now to David. David, over to you for your session.
Thank you. And Sandeep, that was great. You're a hard act to follow, my friend. That was the first time that I had seen that ad. I obviously missed a lot of the cultural implications that you just talked about, but there was quite a payoff with that ad, because all through it, I'm wondering what is with these, flashlights in people's teeth, and then bam, you get it. And that's very effective. So that's the first time I had seen that. And thanks for sharing that. So let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. My name is David Schneer, and I'm the CEO of a company called Merrill Research. We have a sister company called the Merrill Institute for Nonverbal Intelligence. Now, Merrill Research is a company that I started in 1986. So I've been around for a long time. And my company, the elevator pitch that we tell people is that we help other companies bring new products to market. We also help companies hone their strategic communications, their advertising, their branding, their logos, their naming, any way that they might reach out and touch a potential customer or prospect. We are a multi-methodological research company, which means we do both quantitative and qualitative research. I have colleagues that handle the quantitative, the large scale stuff, but my focus for over the years has been qualitative. Okay. So in addition to being a moderator that conducts focus groups and in-depth interviews, I also happen to be a highly trained nonverbal intelligence expert, which means that I am able to use my body language skills in my interviewing to ascertain when somebody is comfortable or uncomfortable with the question I just asked. Okay, and there's tons of information that we can talk about that. But recently, we did something that was very unique. And that was we interviewed some technical professionals, and I went into a focus group facility in person, and we also did this virtually. And I interviewed these technical respondents, and I noticed instances when I thought they were uncomfortable, either showing me signs of joy or happiness or disgust or contempt, these micro expressions that I'm trained to see. Well, we had Lightbulb AI's software back me up. Okay. It was a lot like wearing a belt and suspenders to keep your pants up, but we were extra careful to make sure that what I saw was backed up by the Lightbulb AI. And what we found was that there were numerous instances, more than we could possibly even report, of the software backing me up when I noticed inconsistencies between what somebody said and what their bodies told me. So Ritu, I was looking at your presentation earlier and you talked about don't trust your gut. I say don't trust your ears, trust your eyes. We teach people to listen with their eyes. Now, ROI. So it's really quite simple, folks. If you are in product development and you have the opportunity to do research before the product is introduced, here's what we tell our clients. What we tell them is this. We said, look, if your campaign is, I don't know, $100,000 or less, it's a small campaign, you know, probably doesn't make sense to do research because research could very much be more expensive than the actual campaign. That makes no sense, right? But let's say, as many of my clients do, let's say you have a campaign that is going to cost you millions, or a new product introduction that's going to cost you millions to source, you know, your bill of materials, your source, your design, your tooling, your manufacturing, your sales, your marketing. That all adds up. All right. Now, if you do your research beforehand, okay, you can gain the following benefits. All right. And this is directly related to ROI, because if you pay up front and you do your research beforehand, it always costs less. And here's why. If you do your research beforehand, you can identify, analyze, and understand your customers, prospects, and your stakeholders. You can identify naturally occurring segments in your customer base that you might not know about. You can determine pricing strategies. You can differentiate your company from the competition. Okay, this would help you craft positioning statements and channel strategies best suited for your messages. It helps you prevent the launch of a product that's searching for a problem to solve. Okay. Also, if you do your research up front, during that process, you can solicit product improvement advice directly from consumers. It can help with forecasting. It can identify effective distribution channel strategies. It can identify unseen pitfalls like regulatory or compliance obligations. Better ROI. It helps determine where to invest in improving product performance, communications, and adoption. Okay, you're spending this money. Why not use the research to help shape it? Now, what happens if you roll the dice and you say, we don't need any research. We know the market. We have no competitors. Here's what you've just done. If you don't do any research, it's like driving around without insurance. Okay. That's what we do. We sell new product development insurance, because if you don't do anything, you develop a product that does not solve any market needs. You end up squandering valuable time, capital, and employee resource making decisions in the dark because you have no data, because you didn't do the research. You leave yourself vulnerable to competitive activities. You create strategic communications like advertising or positioning or branding or logos that do not resonate with a target audience that you don't understand. You miss market signals that make it difficult to steer through risk. And there's a lot of risk these days. You lose potential concepts for innovation, which suffocates your R&D. You shorten your product's life cycle without adequate market feedback. And here's a kicker. You end up risking the alienation of your customers and stoking dissatisfaction, which leads to decreased demand, which then leads to low sales, which then leads to, on and on and on. So I highly recommend that if you have a significant spend, that you earmark between 1% and 5% of your communication spend to measure the effectiveness of your efforts. Otherwise, good luck. We'll see you when your product fails. And then you come back and, oh, that just gets so much more expensive, my friends. So do your homework.
I must have mentioned this, but I will say this again. I love how David incisively puts the points that stay in your head. David, one statement, which is now my new favorite of yours, is a product looking for a problem.
Oh yeah, that
I think
I
that
did
is
not
so brilliant.
did not invent that. That's been older than me, actually, which is pretty old. But I've seen this time and time again. And it's not, it's not just about research, it's about other things you can do, understanding your environment, understanding the political environment, a lot of stuff that folks don't do. So I think you're up next, unless there's any questions. We're going to take questions at the end.
We do have some questions that have come in already, both from some of our attendees and the team members. I think we'll take them right at the end. So let me quickly jump in. I will be sharing my screen. Please let me know when you can see it. All righty then. Yes. Can you all see my screen? Excellent. Great. Not an easy job coming up after two such renowned researchers and following up their insights. But what I would like to do is perhaps just very briefly talk about some of the marketing campaigns that are more digital than the premises on which they are based or the collaterals on which they are based. And I'll talk that through. Before I jump in, a quick look back at why I feel I may be able to share some insights with you. I have about 21 years of sales and marketing experience across B2C and B2B businesses. We had a former startup which we built from scratch. This second startup, again, we are building in the B2B space. I used to lead consumer and brand marketing at Airtel, which is one of the largest telecom companies here in India. Prior to that, did sales with Wipro, headed a couple of radio stations, so handled communications quite extensively. I think it's given me a bit of a mixed bag of experience across different mediums, whether it's been television, radio, outdoor, looking at digital, looking at acquisition on app, looking at the traditional enterprise sales cycle now with Lightbulb. So a mixed bag of experience. And I really wanted to just distill some of the core principles. And the one core principle I think that I have managed to distill in this entire piece is don't trust just your gut. I think as marketing professionals, as we age and we get experience, we think we know what we are doing. And that's always a great thing because it's always great to have your gut give you a sense of direction. But blind adherence of faith on your gut is inevitably going to go wrong. And I think that's also what David referred to, that if you don't do your homework extensively, you will have to pay for the consequences later. So some of the key items that I'd like to talk about in this brief presentation is look at the process of a marketing campaign and what is the line of sight that we as a marketer need to have. Now, for any marketing campaign, you start with a brand and a business objective. And then you look at your audience. Who is it that you're trying to target? What is the action that you want to elicit from that marketing campaign? What is the channel that that action will happen on? And therefore, what is the ROI of that channel? And that's really how most marketing campaigns are constructed. Now, some of the disruptors to this entire process, which we often tend to miss out on, are, let's talk about audience, for instance, clarity. The number of marketing campaigns that are generally dispersed and not specifically targeted is staggering. We are often trying to be everything to everybody and end up being obviously nothing to anyone. So hyper targeting of your messaging and brand and business objective to a specific target audience is critical. It's one of the most basic things. It's one of the things we mess up the most. The wider our audience, the less chances that you will get a meaningful response because your messaging will not resonate. Second, when we look at an audience, we often overestimate the quantum of that audience. For instance, if we're trying to reach out, let's talk about our own business. If we're trying to reach out to consumer insights professionals on, say, a channel like LinkedIn, what is most important to understand is that audience on that channel? And what is the quantum of that audience on that channel? And therefore, are you looking for the audience in the right place? So one, are you clear about your audience? Two, where do they dwell in large sizes? Second, let's talk about the action that any marketing campaign is expected to elicit. Each action is dependent on the channel, and there is often a misfit between the action and the channel. For instance, let's assume that you're running a lead generation campaign where you want somebody to click through to your website, and you pick a popular channel like Instagram to do your ad targeting it. What you have to remember is certain channels are designed for certain behaviors. For instance, Instagram is designed for reel scrolling or image scrolling. The natural action is to flick upwards. You just scroll and keep scrolling. And that's what everything on that platform and channel is designed to make you do. Now, at that point of time, for somebody to stop, watch your reel, click through to your profile, go to the link in bio, and land on your website is a very long series of actions to take, and inevitably you will lose your audience. Versus if you are on, say, Google searching for something and you see an ad for that particular item right above your search bar, your propensity to click through to the website is much higher. So it's very important to map your action to the kind of channel, and remember that certain channels promote certain behaviors. Secondly, are there sufficient opportunities and time window for your advertising or your messaging to register in order to elicit that action? That's also another critical opportunity. Are you giving people the opportunity to take that action, or are things moving so quickly in that channel space that people are losing that opportunity? That's another point to think about. Then let's talk about the choice of channel selection. Let's go back to the original example of trying to target consumer insights professionals on LinkedIn. Now, because of the quantum of the people and their activity levels on a particular channel, as in their presence, time spent per session, the cost for the action may be sufficiently high. And you may actually get a much lower cost per action, CPL, CPI, whatever metric you're using. You may actually get much better costs on competing channels. So it's always very important in the early days of putting together your marketing campaign in a multimedia marketing campaign, like Sandeep said, to look at your cost per action across multiple channels. And also, very importantly, cost per action is great, but how scalable is that cost per action? For your first 100 actions, you may get it at, say, 100 rupees per action. But when you want 1,000, does it go to 700 rupees? Or is that cost scalable? So it's very important to identify marketing channels where your cost per action remains feasible and predictable over a period of time. This is what happened to a lot of internet marketers in the early days of Facebook. Facebook offered quantum, it offered opportunity, it was the right channel, and the cost per action was very reasonable. So they committed a lot of budgets to Facebook. But after 100, 200 leads, the cost would dramatically escalate by 5 to 6x. But you were already committed by that time. And therefore, you found out that your overall ROI significantly suffered. So these are some of the key items to keep in mind when we plan marketing campaigns, right from picking the right quantum and definition of your audience, finding out which action you want that audience to take, and which channels facilitate that action in order to get a high ROI. The three top principles, therefore, to kind of focus on for any marketer is one, learn to experiment. As Sandeep beautifully said, 2% is not an experiment. 8-10% in early days, experiment with multiple channels to understand what works best for your business and what gives you sustainable ROI over a large scale. And that is what I mean by understand channel scale. Certain channels work really well in the short term, but they don't give you long term sustainable cost driven results. So, in your experiments, try and identify channels that work best for your business and also can scale with you over the long term. And again, most importantly, like both Sandeep and David have emphasized regularly, is be data driven. Do not trust your gut. Our gut very often is influenced by what we had last night. And testing, retesting, and retesting is the only way to be sure that you're doing what's right for your business and your budgets. On that note, let me briefly share some examples of what I mean by testing and retesting. All of us today are in the internet world. Our purchases are going online. We consume content online. Our websites or our apps are our first touch points where people connect to us in digital marketing or lead generation campaigns. We very often spend a lot of time on our advertising, and we don't think through about the landing pages or the website experience where customers actually land after that lead generation or advertising process. Once you have a customer on your website or your app, do you understand what paths that person is going to take? Does the person actually understand the messaging and take the relevant call to action that you want him to exercise? These are all things that stand between you and ROI. Because if your entire campaign is optimized towards cost per purchase or cost per conversion, then just getting the person to the website is not sufficient. You need to optimize the path between when he lands to the website to when he converts as a paying customer. And understanding user paths, messaging comprehensions, and CTA prominence are key milestones in this journey. For instance, if you look at your application itself, are you able to handhold and guide a user to the relevant area of interest in the fastest spot of time? Are you losing them at various drop-off points where they're not able to identify what they saw in the lead gen funnel and came to your app to look at? And therefore, are you measuring clicks to completion? If I'm clicking 10 times, you've shown me a particular item as an ad, but I come to your website and I have to click 10 times to get to the item, I am definitely going to drop off. So marketing ROI very often stays on the section of advertising. We don't realize that it cuts through to our actual digital assets and our customer touch points. And it all has to fall together in a seamless line to get you that ROI that you need. Similarly, in terms of understanding gender disparities, I know Sandeep called this out. Different genders behave differently towards similar products. So is your product flow optimized to handle the different kinds of information that genders look for? How do you drive personalization in that UX path? And if you're talking about advertising, whether it's video ads or static ads, do we understand today what attracts and retains user attention? You've spent a lot of money on a celebrity or a model, but are they actually cutting through and providing you with that attention level that you were looking for? Or was that money wasted? It could have been put back in media. And similarly, is the kind of messaging that you're putting out, is it capturing the essence of what you're trying to convey? Is it even being focused on, or is it getting lost in the clutter? Similarly, for a static ads, can you look at multiple creatives and compare them and only run with the best and not do trials on the fly by putting out, like all of us do, 6 creatives and let's see which one performs best? Because you're wasting media money. And are you adequately testing alternate messaging for what has the simplest and easiest comprehension and resonates best? All of these, I think, in short, constant vigilance on the part of the marketer is what will help define marketing ROIs. There is no part of the funnel that you can afford to ignore and that you should not keep experimenting with and keep testing and iterating for improvement. So, as Harry Potter said, or rather, somebody in the Harry Potter movie said, constant vigilance. And on that note, I'll stop. Awesome. Okay, so it comes to me now. I'm seeing there's a lot of chatter in the chat, and now is our Q&A session. I think let's start with the very first question from Sudhindra saying he doesn't really say who it's for. David, would you like to handle this? Does marketing also play a vital role in the sales contribution of core industries like steel, coal, or even companies which are not in retail?
I would say yes. I mean, marketing makes the world go around, in my opinion. Marketing holds the customer down long enough for sales to pick their pocket. So I do. I don't know anything about those industries. I don't work in those industries, but my sense is that, I do work in B2B channels, and there's a lot of marketing that's done there. So I would think, yeah.
Makes absolute sense. Let's quickly jump on to the next question, which is directed from Swati to Sandeep Ranade. I'm curious to know what, if in an ad which performed well in research fails to connect with the audience when it's actually launched in the market, how do researchers tackle this?
Yeah, so Swati, good question. The first system one response of researcher is to go and try and say that something went wrong when you were deploying the ad, right? That's the first thing the researcher will say. I have tested the campaign and we have tested the campaign and it works. So something went wrong in the deployment. That's the first response. But actually, if it doesn't work out well, I think we need to go back and talk to a few people again to understand what happened. Right? You're doing two things at two different points of time. You did pre-test the ad and it worked well. And in a market, in a competitive scenario, it hasn't worked well. Maybe we need to talk to a few people again and understand what hasn't worked and agree that maybe it has not worked rather than going defensive and saying something went wrong in the deployment of the ad. And that will give us an answer. Though I may not have an example to share, Swati, right now on whether we have gone through an example like this and what happened, but maybe we need to talk to the consumers again to understand what went. Does that help?
I
Yes,
really
it
have
does.
to. Swati, I think that's a lovely question. And as a researcher, tell me, aren't you biased? Because in either case, you win, right? Because you
Uh,
test the ad and then after that, you test why it didn't work.
I would really love some examples here. I'm sure you won't be able to think right, like on top of mind, like, but I am very certain there will be few
There will
examples
be.
which we can think that the ad performed well while we tested it, but when it got launched, somewhere it did not link or it did not convert into sales as expected. But I liked your answer. I mean, if something went wrong in the deployment is a but it would be good, like you said, go back, do some research, find out from the respondents where exactly what did not work well.
Yeah, so Swati, just adding to it, there are two things. The
Mhm.
impact of ad on the brand performance, which is your KPIs like awareness or top the
Yes.
funnel, lower funnel, etc., versus expectation that the ad impacts sales. Now the ad
Mhm.
impacting sales has a lot of things in between,
Got it.
right? So
Yeah.
there then clearly, like a researcher or any researcher, I would say we need to look at those things because the ad directly impacting sales has a lot of things in between. But if it was the objective was to maybe increase awareness or drive consideration, I'm talking at those parameters, and if it doesn't work, then one needs to relook at it.
Okay. Sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Sandeep.
you.
Thanks, Swati. Next question is for either Sandeep or David. What is most important for brands, attention or emotion data, when they want to do research for a new product or an ad? So, is attention more important or the emotions elicited more important?
Sandeep,
David,
I'll
would
let
you
you
like to
take
take
that.
this?
I was going to let Sandeep take
Okay,
that. I'm not
Sandeep.
sure I understand the question.
See, if you ask me
Sandeep,
on
would you
my,
like to attempt?
yeah, I'm trying to, Ritu and David. I don't know whether it's the right answer, but Yogesh, when you are measuring, and I'm still talking measuring ad and ad performance, you are trying to measure multiple variables, if I may call in a research language, than just one. And there are times when, based on the objective, one is more important on the than the other, or both are important, right? In a clutter breaking scenario, you would want attention to be there, but you also want the ad to work in a particular way where the emotion response comes in. So again, I would say it depends on what the objective of that campaign was. I may want to look at both, or I may want to look at one more important versus the other. Is where I would be. And David, you can add to it, please, if I've missed anything.
I now understand the question, and your answer was perfect. So I would agree. The ads are oftentimes created for different purposes, right? Are they there to raise awareness? Are they there to make the brand more relevant? Are they there to be differentiating? A whole host of things that the ads are designed to do, and the agency will give you those metrics, and then you go off and try and see if the ad hits those or not. But yeah, all that's important, and it really does depend. It's a good question.
So, yeah, Ritu, please go ahead.
There's a follow-up question here on how important is the filtering of qualified testers for any qual testing. Yogesh, you can add to it if you'd like.
Yeah, so Sandeep, I think then attention is the most important criteria for any performing any market research. And on top of that, once we get the attention of the testers, then probably the next parameter would be the emotion data.
Agreed, Yogesh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think we have a question from Chandra. Chandra, would you like to ask your question instead of me reading it out and making a hash of it?
Sure, Ritu. Hi, David. First of all, thank you so much for sharing such an insightful view on marketing. I mean, hi, Sandeep. So, David, my question to you is that I would like to understand, while building product, how can we proactively integrate and address cultural nuances while developing the product so that whatever features and the offerings we are delivering can effectively fit with diverse consumer backgrounds and values?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you have a product that is going over other countries' borders and international product, I've seen a lot of companies make the mistake of looking at Europe as like one country, right? And it's not. And so what you really need to do is take a look at where you're going to be selling this, and go do some research in France or Germany or the UK or India or wherever it is you're going to be marketing this. You have to take in all sorts of considerations, from language to what to stress. So I see companies oftentimes try and make that mistake of thinking Europe is one country, or ignoring Asia altogether. But yeah, you really have to go to these countries and understand how the product or the communication plays. Did that answer your question?
Thank you so much, David. But just a follow-up question on that. So many, like in India, we have certain cultural nuances as well. And when we visit a certain country, there can be also diverse cultural nuances associated with that particular country with a broad spectrum of in the demographics. So how do we, like, should we pay attention to every aspect of the cultural nuances, or should we take the top level consideration as to this is the target consumer I'm going to address to, and this is where I'm going to limit my product or my offering?
I think it's going to be very difficult for you to, dive into the cultural nuances of a country like India, or maybe even a country like Russia. I mean, it's very complicated. I think doing a top level assessment and understanding things as simple as eye contact. Okay, so you're showing somebody, let's say, an advertisement, and let's say you're in China, or better yet, Japan, and they kind of look away, right? Well, in some cultures, that would be an instant sign of deception. They look down, they look away. But in other cultures, it's a sign of reverence and respect.
Yeah,
And so you got to understand that.
understood. Yeah, thank you so much, David, for answering
David,
this.
can I add
Thank you, Ritu.
Yes,
one
please.
particular thing here? No, I just wanted to add, David and Chandra, that my core product that I'm selling or taking through is the same. I think what will happen more is, as you deploy it and you do a lot of other things, like David was talking about, the advertising or packaging or whatever, that deployment has to take a lot of cultural nuances into it when you are taking it to market, or even in India, to different states or to different
Yeah,
countries. I may not change my core product, I may change a few things, but the deployment will be a lot dependent on the cultural nuances that are happening, and we need to understand that.
Yeah, I had
yeah,
a disk drive manufacturer here in the Valley that had to have instructions in about 25 countries, and also a onboarding software launching program for each one of these countries. And we had to take these prototypes to China. We went to Taiwan, we went to big China, we went all over to test this, because the cost of a mistake like that is enormous, right? Compared to the cost of the research.
I think beautifully made points. Thank you, Chandra. That really was a fabulous question. I think we have a very interesting question coming up from Zed. Zed, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the wonderful insights. So my question is to Sandeep and David. So we have personalization, and so how we can balance between giving a very personalized feed. Let's say we are targeting some user who are very much inclined towards tech. We have a product that is inclined towards tech, but at the same time, how we can balance out, like we are not going very much intrusive in their um, feeds or something of that sort. Like how to balance out between these two things. And also the next thing is that any particular KPI that in the field of research that we that is the baseline model that is go to.
Sandeep, you want to take that?
Yeah, I am still thinking about the first one,
I give you the
Zed.
hard ones, my friend.
Yeah, on the second one, and maybe a marketeer, or like a marketeer would be able to take on the first one. I'm still thinking, sorry. But on the second one, actually, my learning is, and this is based on, again, measuring AI responses, and please do add, David and Ritu, is what we have seen is it's not just about liking, when you do a research, and I'm talking all from a research consumer point of view, and because when I did a research with 100 people, 95% said they like the ad, and I'm still staying with response to stimuli and advertising. If you are able to measure their AI or facial expressions, is the ad able to get some emotions? There are times where you see people are flat faced and there are no emotions or no responses coming in. Forget the questions asked at the end. So if the ad is able to emotively make you feel something, that ad is far greater than they just saying I like the ad. Is the way. So when you're talking about a KPI, again, the safest way to say is it depends on the objective of the ad. But yeah, there are a lot of things. But if your ad is, or your stimulus, your marketing stimulus is able to make or make them emote something positive, negative, whichever way, I'm not getting into that, it is far more effective to make them do something than just a plain face and just a claimed response that I like the ad. That's what I would say on the second one. Sorry, Zaid, I'm still thinking on the first one.
Well, the first one I think is regarding feature prioritization. Is that right?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of research you can do that would generally be quantitative in nature, that would help a sample of your customers or your prospective customers to determine, of the features that your product has, what are the most important? What's your best first punch, when you introduce this product? There's a lot of best practices. Generally, with that type of stuff, we would do an upfront small qualitative study to understand how the people talk about the features, and then go off to a larger sample, something that's more predictable or reliable, and do things like not only feature prioritization, but pricing as well, because that's somewhat related, right?
Yeah. And thank you so much. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much
I
for
think
that.
Zed, did that
Yeah.
help?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It does.
I know that we are completely out of time now, but we have a lot of questions left. What I will request everybody to do, and we'll facilitate this, is we will articulate these questions on emails to all of our speakers, given who it's directed towards, and we'll request them to maybe take a little time out of their schedule to just pen a few lines on what they think the responses to these might be. So Nishant and I will help facilitate that conversation. But thank you so much. Yeah.
Would I be out of place if I tried to sneak in an answer for one of these questions because it's so good?
Please,
Is that
that would be
okay?
lovely.
'Cause
Absolutely, absolutely.
it's late here now. I'm not going to bed. So, somebody asked about how many interviews is enough, right? If you're doing research in the U.S. with a big country like this, and there's 50 states here, is 20 to 30 interviews enough? That's a brilliant question. And the reason I want to answer that is because I just wrote a blog about that's coming out in a couple days. And here's the answer. Oftentimes, when people do 20 to 30 interviews, if those 20 to 30 interviews are the same people, in other words, they're homogeneous, that may be too many interviews, because research has shown that if you want to talk to 20 Sandeeps, okay, by the time you get to the 11th, 12th, or 13th, or even 14th Sandeep, you begin to hear the same thing. It's called theoretical saturation. It means if I talk to any more Sandeeps, I'm going to hear the same thing. So 20 to 30 of a homogeneous population may be a little too much, but if you have, like, you want to interview a Sandeep and a Ritu, now you can do 12 Ritus and 12 Sandeeps and begin to see patterns with as little as 12 interviews, assuming those people are the same. Does that make sense? Great question.
Yes, David, it does. Thank you. That
No,
question
thank you
was
so
to
much for
me.
answering that.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I was
No,
waiting
actually,
to answer
Swati,
that.
really
It's a
good
great
question.
Yeah.
It
Really
was
good
very
question.
helpful. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, look for my blog. It's coming out. Be more information on that. So
Sure.
Awesome. I think everybody has been super helpful. The speakers, thank you, David. Thank you, Sandeep, for joining in at short notice and preparing such beautiful conversations and taking time out to answer these questions. A big thank you to the audience, team members, as well as guests who joined us today. I think some absolutely lovely questions have come in. I know that my understanding of this topic has drastically increased after this webinar, and I hope everybody is taking away something. We will note all of these questions down, and we will make sure we link you up with the speakers to ask your questions after taking their consent on sharing their email. But thank you again, everybody. It was a pleasure. We look forward to organizing more such webinars. Thank you, Nishant, for putting in all of the work. And thank you again to Sandeep and David for doing such a stellar job as always. It's a pleasure to have you guys on board.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's do it again, only a little earlier.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.